And queen takes f3. Oh, what is going on? Oh, this is going to be a fortress. I just don't see any hopes at all. This is very easy. Just rook back and forth.
Taking chess to the next level.
Wow. Wow.
Wow, yeah. Nothing else to say. Wow.
Creating the future of the sport. Introducing the Champions Chess Tour. 10 months, 10 tournaments. The world's best players online and on TV.
And queen.
All right, welcome everybody. Another day of Banter Blitz. See, it looks like not getting challenges for some reason. Oh, I see. I need to log in. That might help just a little bit. So that was why I wasn't seeing any challenges. So we will. Grief. Big part of playing Banter Blitz is remembering your password, guys. Maybe people smarter than me can do that. But yeah, okay, so we should be ready to accept challenges in just a moment. And in the meantime, I'm going to just spam my course link into the chat here for all the Shankland repertoire stuff. So there's the link in the chat, and I'm going to try to play some of the repertoire today. I got some challenges. All right, let's get started. So, what la? Let's see what you got. What is it? Malaysia. Okay. Oh, I'm on blindfold mode here. I have to change my settings. I forgot to. Let me see if I can change my settings. Settings. I got it. Okay, I got it. So let's get started. But I did manage to mouse slip move one, so I'm gonna play a perk instead of my repertoire. So, or I guess, yeah, what do they play? I have no idea how to play the perk. Okay. Hola, Alfiel como a ocho. I guess now I'm in a King's Indian. Lo siento por mi español. Okay, so bishop e3 here, I don't really know. I guess it would be similar to some kind of Gligorich, so I'm just going to play a sort of silly line. I don't really know what I'm doing here. I don't know how to play the King's Indian with black, but when I did Hand and Brain with Rajabov, he was getting upset with me because I didn't know how to play King's Indian, but this is funny. No sabía que hablabas español. No, no hablo español. Mi español es peor. El peor. Yeah, so Queen b3 looks a little bit weird to me. I sort of thought that Rook b8 and b5 was a plan that people sometimes play anyway, and Queen b3 seems like it's sort of walking into it. And I think I can actually even get away with b5 right now, because if he takes twice, I will have knight c7, and e4 is hanging, and b5 is hanging, and too much is loose. So, yeah. Let's go knight c7. And black looks comfortable enough to me. I mean, I don't really understand these positions, but it feels like I should be able to play like a5 and gain space on the queen side and bishop b7 and pressure the center. It really doesn't look like a King's Indian anymore. But, yeah. He could probably consider d5 now that my knight is no longer able to go to c5. But he ducks the queen all the way back home. I suppose that makes some sense. Let's pressure this pawn on e4 a bit and let him figure out how to deal with it. h4. I think that's asking for trouble, because now I'm going to go b4 and take the e4 pawn. And once I've taken a key central pawn like that, white's position should be really suspect. Yeah, so knight b5, but I'm going to take it and go bishop takes e4. And now I'm a clean pawn up in the center, and strategically white's totally busted. So let's start with this sort of funky looking move, queen a5. I want to get the queen to like h5 or d5. And black should just be absolutely winning here. I mean, I have a clean pawn up, and there's weaknesses on the king side. The d4 pawn is weak. Losing the e4 pawn really ruined white's position. Let's take on e4, and now knight g5, sure. Let's just go knight back to f6 and keep control of the d5 square. That seems easy enough. Yeah, so guys, I'm going to do my best to read the chat, but I'm only reading chess24. I don't know how these streamer guys do it, where they can read chess24, YouTube, and Twitch all at the same time. Those guys have skills I will never understand, but I'll do my best to read the chess24 chat. If you get a bad position, the king's Indian, you're playing it correctly. I guess it's not how I would think of it, but it's why I don't play the king's Indian. I don't like getting bad positions. There's some guys out there who just can play king's Indian. They know it's bad and they don't care, and they win anyway. They get bad positions, but they keep it complicated, and more power to them. I just wish I just never could do that. I don't know. There we go. That's right. Okay, so let's get more challenges. Let's play with Ulick86. I don't think I've played with this person before. All right, so we'll play the chessable repertoire. Oh wow, this guy's got a really high rating from Moldova. Okay, so, and I have no time, so I have to move a bit quicker. I'm normally playing 5-minute games because I'm not good at getting flagged. But yeah, so far I'm just sticking with the chessable repertoire to the extent that I can. And here, which means as long as I don't mouse slip, I can play it. So here, I gave the old man line with cd5 against the Ragozin, which I think is pretty reasonable for white. It's really fallen out of favor as of late, but I think that's not entirely deserved. So, yeah, knight bd7, so I'm so old I can't remember what I recommended. I think I gave queen c2 here. Yeah, so the point here is that if h6, g5, and knight e4, I'm going to go knight d2, and after knight takes g3, hg3, I'll be able to castle in one move instead of two. So castle is a little weird there. And here I think white's supposed to be doing pretty well. But I really don't remember this stuff too great. I think the point now is that in c5, I'm ready to play bishop e2, and the structure once c5, c4 comes, especially if black is taken on c3, is it's supposed to be pretty reasonable for black if his bishop gets to f5, but I don't think he's going to. So, yeah, people are saying I mean, I think in general the Carlsbad should be better for white just by default, sort of, but it's, the question is this a good version? I mean, the bishop on b4, like, black's best hope in the Ragozin with the bishop on b4 is to quickly throw c5, c4, or g5, knight e4, and get some kind of activity like that, and I just don't really think he's pulling this off here. And there's some structures, for example, here, like c5, castle, bishop c3, b3, c4. A structure like that I tend to think is pretty reasonable for black if he gets his bishop to f5, but I don't think he's going to. So he goes for this a5. He's setting up like a more normal, traditional queen's gambit, but let's go a3, kick this bishop a bit, and now I can play for a minority attack, or here I'm even very tempted to throw e4 at him. E4 is very tempting, but I'm actually going to prepare it first with rook fe1. He's really playing pretty slowly, actually, given the time control. Yeah, I like this rook fe1 move, preparing for e4. I mean, if he plays bishop e7, I don't have to play e4. So here, like, let's say I go rook a b1, and now remain flexible with my plans. Okay, so knight f8, sure, let's go b4 and keep hitting it. Do I think Fallujah can become world champion? He could. I mean, he probably won't. The odds of any individual person becoming world champion are very low. I think his odds are probably as high as anybody on the planet, but I still think that in an absolute sense they're not wildly high. First of all, I don't think we're going to have a new world champion anytime remotely soon. I think Magnus is still the best, and I think he's the best by a lot. But if one day it comes, you never know who it's going to be. So, yeah, this all looks very suspect for black. Now knight b5 comes and I think I win. So, yeah, black just didn't get any kind of typical Ragozin counterplay and just sort of got sat on in the, by this minority attack, which is pretty typical in these Carlsbad Queen's Gambits. It just feels like there's, it feels like he never got... The Ragozin just feels like a bad Carlsbad Queen's Gambit if he doesn't get counterplay. All right, so here he's trying to be tricky, but I don't think it will work. So let's say I take on d3, and then if I go knight d6 here, I'm thinking between knight d6, bishop d3, knight c8, I hit the rook. This should be winning. So takes, and now I will get my rook to b8, and that should be good enough to finish the game off. And yeah, that should be winning. I don't know, maybe I could have played this better, but this is certainly good enough. So knight b6, and now knight takes d5, and I'm absolutely winning here. Check and get this knight as well, and we're done here. Okay, so good game to Julik. Thank you for playing. Next up, let's play with Grunewald. Okay, I wonder if he plays the Grunfeld. Let's see. Nope, Dutch. Now I gotta remember what I recommended. I'm pretty sure it was c4, g3. So let's see what this fellow plays. He's playing the classical Dutch. That's not a very good opening. So a5 first. Can't remember that too well, actually. I think we can start with queen c2 is fine. And now a3, if I recall. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is good. Because if he plays e5, I'm going to go d5 and then knight g5, and it's actually really annoying for him to guard the e6 square. Yeah, it took me a second to remember. Will there be a Semi-Slav course add-on? Maybe. I'm thinking about it. We will see. But yeah, so here he goes for this line, but now he has hanging pawns on both b7 and d5, and if I recall here, we're actually supposed to give the queen. After knight d5, I think we play queen takes f8. I'm pretty sure that's the idea. So he doesn't want that, but now he should just be pawn down. Let's go bishop e3. And stop knight c5, and again, if knight d5, I'm just playing queen takes f8. And this, I think this passed pawn on e6 is just way too good, and despite the queen less, white is basically winning, as far as I recall. Yeah, knight takes d5, and this should just be crushing despite being a queen down. It's quite a nice line, actually. I remember checking this for the chessable course. And yeah, black is busted here. Okay, rook c8, sure. I see like a million good moves, but rook ac1 seems easy enough. And this e-pawn is just way too good. Black will lose to it. Knight c5, but b4, and he cannot take on e6 because of rook c8. So now I'm taking a piece back too. Yeah, this is a really nice queen sacrifice, I have to say. It's not wildly difficult or anything, but it's still very nice. And here, black is losing. Was I surprised to see Magnus self-destruct against Nepo? Did he self-destruct, or did Nepo just play really well in the Blitz playoff? I don't know. I thought Nepo played well enough. I mean... Okay, so bishop g5, let's... How do I want to finish this off? Bishop takes g5 and bc seems very to the point, so let's just do that. A Scotch Gambit, would you mind? I would mind. I'm sorry, that's not it. I don't know. Part of the reason I play these Banter Blitz is to show off my chessable courses, and Scotch Gambit, well, there's a reason I haven't written a course on it, let's put it that way. Alright, so bishop h3. How close do I think I came to the equality in the rouser? Pretty darn. I mean, I was satisfied with it. Like, let me put it this way. I've been playing it, like, almost every game for black, like, even before I was writing the course. So I was satisfied enough that I'm playing it with, like, you know, Nakamura and Dominguez and them and winning. So it wasn't like I was wildly concerned. All right, so this is actually a little annoying. Let's go rook a1 and get this rook around and stop messing around. That's probably the easiest way. Rook a7 and bishop d7 is coming. Okay. There we go. So, yeah, I managed to pull this off with the queen sacrifice, which I thought was really cool. It's a nice advertisement for the course. That's how you beat down the classical Dutch. But yeah, now black is mated. Like a queen. And queen e7 is good enough. Okay, so good game to Grunewald. Let's see who else wants to play. Let's play with Sweet Tooth. From Mexico. Have I ever been a top player second? Yeah, I worked for Magnus for the second match with Anand and the match with Karyakin. I really enjoyed my time working on his team. Alright, so I haven't worked with Magnus for a while, but would love to if he'd be willing to tolerate me and my stupidity again. Yeah, so this is what I recommended in the course, and I played it really badly in the last Banter Blitz against some French player who apparently got like a really good position, but I think this line is pretty good for me. All right, so knight e8. This is a variation, but I recall thinking it wasn't that great. So here, but if you're going to play knight e8, like, you really should be throwing f5, because now you can't really play f5 anymore. You will have to take with a rook, which I don't think black wants to do. What are the advantages to the rouser over the Najdorf? That's actually a really good question. So there's a few. First of all, it's a lot less theory, like really a lot. And the biggest reason for that is almost all of white's moves against the rouser are absolute trash. Like the best move is bishop g5. No questions asked. That is the move white has to play if he wants to get anywhere. So if white really is only forced to play one move, or only has one move he can really consider, I think that that makes it much easier for black to prepare, just practically. But also, it's like, it's a very nice move order as well. Like, you don't have to worry about the anti-Sicilians in the Najdorf. There's like e4, c5, knight c3. You're sort of forced to play d6, which gives white an option to play d4. It gives him a superior version of the Grand Prix attack, stuff like that. So being able to play knight c6 on the second move is really nice. And if you compare that to like Sveshnikov, for example, where you would have to where you can't play d6 on the second move, so after knight f3 you can't use a d6 move order. It's just a really nice move order to be able to use. Anyhow, I'm talking too much about that and not enough about this game. Yeah, so I think the best plan for white is supposed to be getting the rook to g3. I've probably misplayed this to some degree, but I don't think it's a huge deal. So let's say we go h3, and then he can play queen h4 if he wants, but I always have bishop e1. And this pawn on f5 is a bit of a weakness. So the knight misplaced on c6 compared to d7. That's the biggest drawback, but I think the only way to punish that is to play into the main line with bishop g5. So additionally, there's also the added benefit that we don't have to play a6, which, you know, has to count for something. I mean, that isn't always the most useful move. There's lines where we can play bishop g7 and play it like a dragon because we haven't burned time on a6. In general, I just think it's got like clear benefits in that capacity that the Najdorf doesn't. All right, so here I'm going to lose a pawn, but I'm going to get a very strong attack. So rook b1 comes, and now he's a pawn up, but cannot develop his queenside particularly easily because if he plays bishop d7, he drops the b pawn. He cannot play rook b8 to defend it because of bishop takes a6. His knight is badly misplaced. I'm ready to play rook g3, and so yeah, he does that. I thought I could just take this pawn on a6 and equalize material. But even if he hadn't done that, I was ready with moves like rook g3 and then bishop c3 and start attacking the king. So it's, I think that this position, despite the pawn down, was pretty dangerous for black. So let's go bishop c3, and now his king is a little bit skeptical here. Yeah, so now knight g3 and harass the f5 pawn, which will not be easy to defend. I was ready to play this kind of position with, like, even with him having an a pawn, as long as I was up like a tempo or two. But here, with equal material, I think black is absolutely done for. Yeah, so this should just be crushing. I'm now a pawn up, my bishop will land on e6, and then I can bolster with f5, and this seems very much over. So let's take this one. Let's start with rook g3. And I may even be threatening like rook takes g7 next. It's... Alright, so here, let's go... Actually, that's an annoying move. He's threatening f4 as well. Rook g7, he has bishop c3. Hang on, but bishop f6 can I play? And then queen h5 next? That looks really good, actually. Let's find out. I'm going to take this and go queen h5. I might regret this, but I think it looks pretty powerful. So queen h5, h6, and now check was my thought, and my queen will get to g6, and that should be the end. That's me. Okay, so good game, Sweet Tooth. I was a bit distracted by the chat, but that's okay. Let's play with DZI Waldo. I don't know, guys. Maybe I will get a rouser if I get to play black at some point, and I'll show you what I mean, I'm done with the course. I'm done with the analysis. I just have to film it. So we'll see if anybody can challenge it. So, oh, I was supposed to play knight c3. Oh, forgot about that. Yeah, so I forgot to my move order. Since I worked with Magnus, is he as friendly as he seems? Yeah, I mean, Magnus is very edgy. Like, if he's happy to make fun of you, and if he thinks you're being an idiot about something, he's not going to be shy about telling you. But he's a pretty straightforward and blunt guy. But I think I've always appreciated him as a person. I mean, obviously, it's a tremendous opportunity for someone like me to work with someone like him. But I think he's a very decent guy. I get along with him quite well. So here we're playing into my normal system in the Semi-Slav. And I sort of came up with a plan where I play bishop d3 and then leave the queen on d1, but here he's changed the nature of the game with that. So I think I'm actually going to take with the bishop here. A lot of these Moran positions where black can play e5 are just like a position like this one. If I were to play, well, now I think I'm just much better, but because I can play e4 and I don't think he can play e5. But in a lot of these positions where like black has to play e5, if my pawn is still on e3, it's going to be really difficult for him. So here I actually have a debate to make. I'm debating if I want to play e4 directly or not. I think actually the answer is no. He's going to go b4 and c5. So I'm going to start with like, let's say rook c1 seems like a decent move. And it's going to be hard for him to get e5 through here. So rook c8, sure. Let's go queen e2. I like this idea. So a6, and now he wants to play c5, so I'm going to stop him from doing so with a4. And now if b4, I go knight e4. He has to take it, I think. And it will not be easy for him to get c5 through under good circumstances, because after takes, I'm ready to meet knight f6 with bishop d3, and the a6 pawn is hanging, so he won't get c5 through there, which gives me another tempo to make trouble. I think black's only a little bit worse here, but in practice, it's really hard to play. All right, so queen b6. I guess he wants c5. Seems natural enough. I'm just wondering how I want to proceed. Knight d2 would be pretty typical in this structure. So let's do it. It might not be the smartest move, but I'm not the smartest guy, so that's okay. So h6 feels really wrong. That just seems like a loss of time. So let's go knight c4. Where's that queen going? I guess c7, but that's a really sad square. a7, no, you can't do that. Now knight a5 comes. Now white should be winning. Yeah, so here, this is going to get incredibly ugly for black. If black has to play knight b8, that's not the way you save a position. So this is sort of a weird Moran. I probably could have taken back with the b pawn on c4 to get a more dynamic game, but this is fine. So here, if I start with knight c6, queen a8, knight e7, rook e7, bishop b7, e4. Knight c6 seems fine. Once I get e4 through, this should be really bad news for black. I didn't want to take with the bishop because then take knight c6, queen d7, and this queen could come to d5. But now my bishop on c6 is going to be really good. And yeah, so I'm just going to double rooks on the c file. Maybe I could be more direct with like e4, a5 or something, but I think doubling rooks is quite sufficient. Taking the only open file plus the extra pawn. Knight d5, sure. So, do I care about knight c3? Probably not really. But I still think I'm going to take on d5 just because it gives me full control of the only open file, which seems pretty good. And if he has to take with the pawn, that's not great for him either, so... Takes with the rook, that's understandable enough, but now like I own the open file and I have the pawn up. My bishop's pretty bad, but it's not that as terrible as it looks because it's sort of hard for his bishop to do very much either, and it stops him from playing stuff like e5. So let's get the queens off and then bring the king. Seems like a good way to conclude the game. Rook c7. Yeah, I don't think I can avoid that move. I don't know though. I'm actually worried if I don't want to go chase the f7 pawn. If his rook lands on c2, that'll be annoying. I'm quite happy to stay one pawn up and activate my king. That should win the game very routinely. I'm sure rook c7 was fine, but okay, so he wants to trade rooks. I'm sure trading was fine, but I like keeping the only open file. And then bring my king. And white is routinely winning. Alright, so now I go d5 and open up my bishop as well. This is exactly the kind of position where I'm glad my king is on e2 and not like letting him do stuff with rook d8. Alright, so here, what are we gonna do? Let's just start taking pawns. Bishop g7, rook g8, bishop h6, rook g2, rook a6, h2, rook h1 comes. I don't really want his rook to get active. Let me start with h3. And if he plays h5, I think I'm actually going to give g4 anyway, and too much stuff is hanging for black. So he goes bishop f6, but now check and I get another pawn. How many variations is the classical Sicilian? I don't know. I mean, you don't really know this stuff until it's... Oh, did I just blunder? Oh boy, guys, I just blundered. Now it's equal. I just literally just blundered in exchange because I wasn't paying enough attention. But, of course I was completely winning, but now it should be holdable for black. You don't know how long these courses are until they're imported. I'm guessing it's going to be like 500 some line moves. It's not that many variations, I don't think. But yeah, I think this game I'm probably still going to win despite hanging in exchange for dead nothing. Yeah, so king b5 and start taking more stuff. Rook a8 is not going to hold, so sure, but let's go g5 and no, like take this way, I guess. He cannot play rook b2, so what gives? Rook e2, sure, but bishop d4, and now I'm going to have 5 pawns, and that is not going to be contained. Okay, so good game, DZI Waldo. I'm sorry I hung an exchange at some point, but wish I'd been paying a bit more attention. Let's play with Hariger Hecht. Oh, this guy's got a really high rating too. Man, I keep getting white. Nobody's gonna get yeah. What problems was I facing in bishop b5 check knight d7? No, it's that will take too long to explain. Alright, so Hariger Hecht, let's see, a6. So I gave c5 in the course here, which is not the most aggressive, but I still think pleasantly better for white in these positions. It's very hard to break black down, but we get an exchange Slav structure where black is left with a bad bishop. So here e3, and I think we can still start with bishop d3 here. He cannot play knight h5 because I have bishop b8 and knight e5 winning on the spot, so he has to play... Sure, so now knight h5 actually is a threat, I think, so I should respect that and play h3. But yeah, these positions, I mean, black's very solid. It's hard to break him down, but boy, is it miserable. Like, his bishops are just so much worse than mine. Let's see what... Like, I would absolutely despise having to play this position with the black pieces. And when I did my Semi-Slav course, I made very sure not to get my bishop stuck behind the pawn chain against the exchange Slav, because when the bishop gets outside the pawn chain, black should basically be fine. I don't think the extra tempo matters much, but in all these exchange Slav structures with the bishop stuck inside the pawn chain, it can get pretty uncomfortable. All right, so he plays that. Debating how aggressive I want to be here, but I think I'm going to be more on the calm side and just take this way, and let's say I go rook c1 and rook fc8, sure, so let's go a3. And it's just, this bishop is so bad. Knight a5, sure, but let's say I go queen e2. Probably has to try knight c4, because what else? But should now sort of regretting a3. Would be nice to play b3 there. I mean, but even this, like, if he plays knight c4, I can't quite play e4, I don't think, but... But the problem black is going to face here is that the c5 square is going to be weaker for him than the c4 square is for me, because my bishop on d3 is better than his bishop on b7. Knight b3, that I was not expecting. It's a little bit annoying there, but I'm not sure how much it bothers me. So let's stick the knight on e5. That seems like a good way to try to take advantage of his knight on b3 being a little bit weirdly placed. I probably haven't played this great, but I still think it's a bit uncomfortable for black. Queen e7, sure. Let's start with queen d1. So I might do a typical regrouping pretty soon. I'm expecting him to play knight a5 because I don't think he wants to deal with knight takes b5 here. The knight on b3 is hanging. And after knight a5, this is actually a pretty normal regrouping for this line, is to duck this bishop back and then go knight d3 to get the knight to c5. And this is sort of the point. I think that the c5 square is going to be a lot bigger problem for black than the c4 square is for white. But knight e4 was a good move. trying to stop that from happening. Let's go queen e1 to try to maintain the pawn structure. And if I can get my knight to c5, white's going to be much better. And here actually black has some problems to solve tactically as well. So, like, I think probably my biggest threat right now is like knight takes d5. Wow, b4. Okay, so take this. Oh wait, now knight takes e4, queen e1, rook c8, and he's okay. Let's go knight d3. I think that there was no amazing tactics there, which is rather a shame. But here I can take on e4 and go knight c5, and stuff is hanging in black's position. A lot of stuff is hanging, actually. Intuitively, it feels very good. Yeah, I think I have to do this. So takes a knight c5. And I think he's going to lose material. So queen c2, knight e c5, and I'm threatening queen a5, knight b7. I'm threatening bishop d1 when the queen is almost trapped, but when it moves away, I will have a rook takes c2. This I wasn't expecting. Now I bring this. Oh, I see. Very clever. So if I go, I see. That's a clever move. Somehow I missed this one. Let's start with. What do I want to start with here? Knight d6 or knight ec5? Let's go with knight d6. There's still a lot of hanging stuff for black. Yeah, so there my thought was I might even be able to take on a5 and start trying to mate him with queen c7. Let's, okay, take on a5 has to be the right start. If rook e2, I have at least knight c1. So I'm going to start with queen c7, I think is a good place to begin. He's going to go bishop e8 and now knight c1. Oh, but did I just blunder queen c2? Okay, this is still fine. So take, since now queen b7, and I'm going to win a piece. So, yeah, this was a bit messy at some point, but I think it was probably always good for me, but it was definitely messier than I would have liked, and now I'm a piece up. Yeah, so good game, Hariger, Hecht. I probably misplayed that really badly at some point, but I managed to pull it out. Let's play with... Oh, Mr. Bogues, let's play with you. I need revenge. You beat me in blindfold last time. I need to bring down the pain. Let's see if I get a chance to play Classical Sicilian. Alright, so... Classical Sicilian. Let's see if I'm able to make any trouble for white. Okay, so bishop c4, I think queen b6 is pretty good. So yeah, e6, and now bishop e3 I think is just not a great move here, actually. I think the whole point is to play bishop f4 and then provoke black's knight to e5 so that f4 comes with tempo. Here I think black actually has a really comfortable position already. So let's go b5. And let's say bishop b7. And okay, knight b4, and already like if he plays g4, I think d5 might just murder him. King b1, sure. Let's keep on developing with rook c8, and once more if g4, d5 is coming. I might even just throw d5 anyway. f5. Fair enough. Can never be that bad a move, but let's see. So if e5, and then d5, e5, g4, d5, g5, I think this works for me. So I'm going to go e5 here. I'm not wildly scared of g4. I think d5 is going to be too good. I don't know. Maybe I've misplayed this, but... No, I think I'm fine. d5 here is coming next and going to be really powerful. I mean, he can play bishop g5 to stop it, but that's just, like, such a bad move to have to play because it not only does it not help his position, but it slows down his g4. So rook d2, sure. I don't think we need to rush with d5. I don't think it's going away. So let's start with bishop e7, and whenever g4 comes, I always play d5 next. So yeah, d5 here. Always meet g4 with d5 was my point. And e takes d5, but then doesn't white should be losing material here somehow. Let me just think how I want to do it. Knight b d5. He has to play knight e4. That feels so flimsy. If knight f d5, he goes bishop, knight takes d5, bishop takes d5, bishop e4, and that should survive. So let's go knight b d5. I think he has to play knight e4 here. Yeah, that's not going to work, right? I mean, you can try bishop takes b5, but it shouldn't be good enough. Queen f1, sure. So let's actually start with knight takes g4. I think that's a good place to begin. Because now his bishop doesn't have the g1 square the way it would if I had included bishop takes h1 first. So here I think white just didn't manage to get anything going. Yeah, so yeah, so rook g1, but now way too much stuff is going to hang. This is too much material. So knight takes e3, and yeah, I'm a piece and a pawn up, so queen h3, sure. What do I want to do about this knight? Yes, let's just go knight c4. That seems easy enough. He probably has to take it, and then, well, he even gives me the rook too. Yeah, so this guy's not messing around, but I really don't think he's gonna mate me here. So my king will just like sit on e7, and I mean I'm not gonna get mated. So that seems quite fine. All right, so good game. Why must I? I think this line with bishop c4 is not that terrible for white, but you should play it with bishop f4 instead of bishop e3. All right, so let's see who else wants to play. Alfil x e8. Let's play with you. I know you seem to like my streams, so buenos dias, jugamos una bella partida, espero. Whoa, very aggressive. So let's see if I can remember what I gave in the course. I'm pretty sure it's f3 bishop f5 was my recommendation. Yeah, this is right. f3 bishop f5. And now white can win back his pawn, but he has to ruin his position to do so. Like he can play, for example, g4 bishop g6 g5, but after knight d5, in order to get the pawn back, he has to take with the knight. And then white's just sort of like ruined his position. So here, for example, as well, h5 comes, and after g5, knight d5, he has to take with the knight on e4, which means, like, strategically I have no issues whatsoever. He doesn't even want it. Okay. So just thinking how I want to handle this. How aggressive do I want to be? I think just calm should be fine hanging. But ef3, knight f3, e6, knight e5 is at least a little bit annoying. I don't actually think it's that scary, but maybe I shouldn't allow it. I'm just going to go e3. This is a pretty typical theme. I'm giving the pawn back. He can play knight takes d5, queen d5, bishop e3, but then I'm going to go knight c6, castle long, and smash him with e5. And white's position, I think, is a bit suspect here. I mean, it's not that bad, I guess, but like he has to worry about knight b4 coming soon. So yeah, take, and now my thought was I could castle long. So let's do it, and I'm ready to smash him with e5 next. If knight f4, I can go queen f5 check, c3, e5, and I think black's in really good shape. Yeah, so here let's go this check. And now I guess he can play bishop d2, but yeah, I mean, so strategically White's obviously doing great because of the bishop pair and my messed up structure, but tactically he's falling apart. He's the position is collapsing right under his eyes. So takes, and now if cd4, like bishop c5, for example, is fine. So let's go takes, and then bishop c5 next. And I could play rook takes d4 first, but I think this is just more flexible. So I might want to take with the rook on d4. I might want to take with the bishop. I'm not sure yet, but this seems absolutely gone already. But yeah, White sort of, so yeah, I let White get his pawn back, but he had to ruin his own position to do so. Check, sure. I think probably I'm going to take with the rook on d4, because then the rook can go to like d2 or h4. It depends what he does, but I don't know. Yeah, he can play like king h1, rook d4, queen e1, and he's probably not mated, but just queen takes e1 and rook takes h4, and White's obviously done. So yeah, this I think is bad news. Okay, so let's take with the rook this time. And he cannot play king g2 because of rook d2, so he's going to have to play like king h1 and then rook h4, king g2, but that's just so ugly. I can go bishop d6 and get ready for queen e5, for example. Yeah, so I'm a pawn up, soon to be 2 with the free attack. So I should take this one home. Yeah, so king h1, I'll take this. And then queen g2, sure. Let's just go bring another piece, rook e8. He cannot play rook e1, so sure. And bishop d6, and now queen e5 is a threat. Probably rook e2 is a threat as well. Alright, so hang on. Rook e2, queen e2, rook h3, king g1, queen g5, queen g2, rook g3 seems pretty convincing. So let's do it. Okay, that's not going to help. I'm just going to take this bishop. And then queen g5, and yeah, this is over. Check. Alright, take the queen, and yeah. Okay, so bueno juega alfil come e8. Let's play another one. See if I can find some. Let's play with Alex Vargas. I don't think I've played with you before. So d4. c4. Ah, French guy. But I don't want to speak French because that I can actually speak. It's funnier when I speak Spanish because that I can't speak. Alright. b6, yeah. So I gave g3 in the course, so I will play it here. It's not the only decent move. Like I played a3 against Ding Liren in the Champions Tour and won a pretty nice game. But I'm giving g3 in this course. So yeah, now knight c3. d6? That's not supposed to be great. No, I can stop knight e4. Okay, knight takes e5, d5, d6, bishop g2, and he's fine. So I think we can just play this like a King's Indian. His bishop on b7 is egregiously misplaced, so... And the bishop on e7 isn't great either. He's going to have a really hard time getting f5 through as a result, so... I'm pretty happy to just play this like a King's Indian. Yeah, so I'm going to go for b4 and eventually break with c5. Knight c5, I don't understand. It gets attacked. So I think the next maneuver is probably knight f3 to e1. Yeah, seems easy enough. And we can go knight d3 and play for c5 reasonably soon. And it's hard for him to play f5, because if he plays it here, I take it and he can't take back with the pawn. Bishop a6, that's sort of clever. But wait, after rook a1, are you perpetually pinned? You can play bishop b7, but I don't think you're too thrilled about that. But yeah, it's hard for black to get f5 through here, which is the big idea. Wait, can I not take this and play b5? I think I can. Yeah, take and then b5, and that's a piece. So, yeah. I mean, black had to try to play on the king side instead somehow, but it's really hard to suggest how. Like, his pieces were totally misplaced to play some sort of king's Indian. Now I'm a piece up. Ok, so merci de la partie, Monsieur Vargas. Je vais trouver une autre personne pour jouer une autre. Let's see what we got. GRZK, let's play with you. Alright, so d4. Okay, so keep following the trustful repertoire is the plan. That's always been my MO in all these banter blitzes. Because what would be the point if I don't shamelessly advertise all the time? You did not. If you don't. If you wait. No, I just played the Catalan because I forgot. But if you're not shamelessly advertising a book, did you even write the book in the first place? Yeah, so I completely forgot that I was supposed to do this. So I'm going to play this Catalan. This b3 move is sort of clever. I played it against Seth Rahman and won a nice game in the ILN tournament. So, and normally, yeah, so we ended up in sort of something that looks like the Queen's Indian, but in general, I think these positions are pretty suspect for black, where he has combined b6 with d5 and then had to take back with the c pawn. So here, white should have a pretty pleasant position because, well, it's not like easy to break through or anything, but I have very active pieces, and the bishop on b7 isn't great, and the structure for black is hard to. It's hard for black to transform the structure in a way that really works for him. Deroach in the chat. Let's get this party started. Yeah, so here this knight on e5 is going to be tremendously annoying for black to deal with. So let's just bolster it and continue the harassment. And my next move is maybe like bishop h3 to harass his pieces even more. Yeah, so that's a pretty typical theme, but here I don't think it works because I can take and play bishop h3, and now his knight is hard to maintain. I mean, if he has to play bishop takes e5, that's just strategic capitulation, but he probably should just play knight f6 and give an exchange here, but yeah, that's not going to work. Now I take a piece. But if he had played knight f6 and just given an exchange and plopped his knight on d5, he's probably a bit worse, but he would not be without counterplay. All right, so this is going to fall apart every which way. I'm just going to be simple and take a rook and then go queen d4 once his. So here I'm a rook up and his queen got distracted. So good game to GRZK. Who else are we playing? Let's play with e4 fighter. Maybe he'll play e4 with me and I'll have a chance to play the classical Sicilian. Well, his name is correct. So let's play some classical Sicilian. But if he plays some chicken move, then he's not really a fighter. No, he is a fighter. That's good. Good e4 fighter. So let's see if anybody can challenge the classical Sicilian. Bishop e2 is not a challenging move. So people were asking about the benefits of classical Sicilian. One of them is exactly this, that black is able to play a setup with bishop g7 without having to burn time on a6. And that means that, and this is like a very good way of playing against bishop e2. It's a good way of playing against like all sorts of moves. Like bishop e2 is not such a stupid move against the Najdorf. Like people are playing it and doing reasonably well, but against the classical Sicilian, just being able to play a dragon is like really helpful. So here, this position is already very comfortable for black. It just like his pieces are all in the right squares, and seems like a very decent dragon. I mean, the dragon's actually just a really great open against everything except for exactly the Yugoslav. All right, so this I don't believe. If I take this bishop, I don't think he's going to mate me. And I'm just wondering if what happens if I like take the bishop and go let's say take queen b6, take on b3, and then queen b6, and it feels like I'm just gonna take his pawn. So I don't believe you're gonna mate me. Why don't you show me? So here, queen b6. That's one of the points of including a6 and a4 is this becomes a weakness on b3 because you cannot take back with the a pawn. Yeah. So here and like if bishop c4, I have knight a5, and I think I'm just sort of taking his stuff already. The dragon's just a really, really good opening against everything except for exactly the Yugoslav. And so when you play a classical Sicilian move order, knight c6 is part of black's plan on the dragon. So you play classical Sicilian with knight c6, and if white plays like almost anything other than bishop g5, then you can just play a dragon, and a very good one at that. Okay, so here e6, and what gives? I don't see it. Queen g5, king g7. So, yeah, so queen h4, king g7, and I think I'm just completely winning. Yeah, so take, and then rook takes c4, and I'm just a clean pawn up already. b2 is hanging, e4 is going to get hit by d5 next. I think black is absolutely winning. So it says, what do you recommend after knight c6, f3? It's the only line we go for the e5 structure. Yeah, so there you do have to play e5. But I made it work. I mean, I think it works totally fine for black. I actually got this line against Johann Sebastian in one of these Chess 24 invitationals, and like it was a very, very violent game actually. But I like blew up the center before he could complete his development. I think I actually recommend e5 against h3 as well, but for the most part, you don't get the e5 structure too often. All right, so good game e4 fighter. Let's see who else wants to play here. Let's see if someone is there anybody like really high rated in the list. All right, let's play with Jupp. He normally plays a chicken line against the Sicilian, but maybe he'll play more of a fighting line this time. Jupp, you gonna fight with me, or are you gonna be a chicken? Oh, chicken again. We're gonna play this again. Yeah, so Jupp has played this with me a couple times. It's very, very solid, but really boring. So yeah, queen e2, and now let's see if he... Okay, so he's playing it a bit differently with b3. So this is the way that Wesley So was recommending, I think, with bishop e7, and then playing a quick d4 and c4 and knight c3, and there's some move order I'm trying to remember, but no, d3, that's not the way you do this. So here black is definitely fine. Let's start with a knight b8 regrouping. It's probably not necessary, but seems like a totally normal way of playing. And okay, so e5, knight d5 seems fine. And I don't know, these positions are just so boring, but which really isn't an issue. You know, you're black, your goal is first to equalize, and here black is very much fine. But they're tedious and hard to play for a win. So let's go queen c7. I'm actually regretting taking on d6 with the bishop. I should have taken with the queen, so I could have played queen c7 directly, but yeah, this is a pretty boring position. If I get e5 next, though, I should be better. So white actually has to be a bit direct. All right, so there. Let's go. If knight f4, queen e3, e5, knight e5, not great. And after knight f4, if queen e3, I can go knight g6, knight c5, and knight b4, hitting both c2 and c5. So that should be fine. Let's go knight f4. He should play queen e3. But here actually I don't have to move my knight, do I? For some reason I thought I had to. Maybe just rook a d8 is fine. Am I scared of knight e5? Probably not. Knight e5, knight g6, and it's fine. So let's go rook a d8. It's a pretty boring position, but that's okay. I just hope I haven't blundered any tricks here. so d4. I guess I have to take it, but I could also consider knight b4. How does he deal with knight b4? Rook d2, I guess. Okay, let's take this one. And take again, and like... This is not particularly interesting chess, but it's fine. If he takes with the bishop, I go b6. Okay, so rook takes d4, and my thought was here I could play e5. And I'm sort of starting to gain a little space. Alright, so does he want to take a7? I feel like that's way too greedy. Maybe he can get away with it. But it feels like f5, bishop c5 should crush. But yeah, now I have the d-file, so at least I have something to play for. And actually, the more I'm looking at this, the more I'm thinking white's completely lost. So here, this feels like there should be something violent. So bishop c5, queen e5, bishop f2, king f1, and not that convincing. I can start with knight d3. Yeah, knight d3 looks really good. And then bishop c5 is coming. If knight f5, I have bishop c5, queen g5, f6, and he has no threats, and I'm going to crash through on f2 or b2 or somewhere. And yeah, so here I think white is getting killed. But yeah, these lines are really solid for white, but they're you can break them down if you're patient and just play a normal game. I think one of the biggest mistakes black players will make when white players are very cautious or play like a really solid line is they immediately try to change the nature of the game and somehow try to force things and force complications right away, when oftentimes it's just better to be patient and wait for mistakes and play a normal game. So yeah, here, let's just be nice and calm, offer a queen trade, and this should be a winning endgame. Queen f3, sure. Don't really want to play e4, but let's just go b6, it's fine. I need to pick up the pace a bit, though. Yeah, so now knight c5, and I get the open file. Alright, knight back to e6. He wants the open file, but let's go queen d3. Did I just blunder rook d2? Nah, I had the rook protected. Anyhow, yeah, so good game, Jep. Start playing the Open Sicilian. You're a really good chess player. You have a high rating, but if you play the Open Sicilian, you're going to be even better. All right, let's play with Dangerous Ride. I know you like to play my Banter Blitz. I like that always play bishop f1. The cow says move, the chicken says bishop b5 check. Yeah. All right, Dangerous Ride, show me what you got. Okay, so I'll just keep playing my normal repertoire. Yeah, so I gave knight bd7 in the Semi-Slav. Queen c2, what is this? This is nonsense. So I'm pretty sure the big point here is if queen a5, you go bishop d2 and then e4, but if I take this, I think black is basically doing really well already. Okay, so a4, yeah, I don't know this stuff. Let's go bishop b4 and play b5. That feels like it can't be too bad. Yeah, so b5, and at some point, like, it should just be a pawn up. Yeah, so bishop b7, and then castles on a6, and I don't believe this for half a second for white. This just looks like an extra pawn. Okay, h6, kick that bishop. Alright, rook c8, let's play. Feels like I'm just a pawn up here, so I guess he has to show what he has, but I really don't think there's much. Yeah, guys, I don't like to share my rates publicly. You can feel free to inquire on the contact form on my website if you want. But I will share that they're probably not low. Let's put it that way. That's right, DeRoche. I had Sam and he improved my online rating 200 points in 3 months. That is right. Helps to have dedicated, hardworking students like you who do the work and pay attention and work hard and get better at chess. Because no matter how brilliant a teacher I am, and I'm not that brilliant, I should say, If you're lazy, you're never going to get better. If you're not willing to learn or listen, you're not going to get better. But for people who are, you can expect a fair degree of improvement, I would hope. So let's take this knight. And knight f. Well, he's trading pieces. I guess that sort of makes sense because a6 is weak, but I think I have it under control with rook c6. All right, let's go rook c8, keep everything nice and solid, and at some point I'm going to start expanding with the pawns. Next one is probably f5. Okay, so let's go f5 first, kick this knight away. And then I will play like bishop b4 to kick the rook away, and then I think I'm starting to consolidate. I mean, I've already consolidated, I'm starting to convert. In fact, where does that knight go? It has to go to c3, right? Yeah, so knight c3. Let's go bishop b4, and let's play knight f6 to control the d5 square. Alright, so I start invading with the king. Nice and calm here. I'm just being patient. I probably should be trying to win faster given the time control, but I don't think white has any counterplay or anything, and I'm just going to slowly but surely break through. So knight d5, and now he has a choice. Does he fix my structure or let my knight get to d3? I guess he lets my knight in, but that's going to hasten the defeat. But even if he had taken on d5 after ed, like my structure is like amazing, and I'm about to go b4 next. So this all seems like bad news for white. Okay, so knight d3, hit this rook. And now, how do I want to finish this off? Let's start with bishop f6 and potentially threaten f4. Good d5, but now b2 is going to fall as well. So let's take this and take on b2. And now the c pawn is coming. I'm 2 pawns up, and this is very much gone. So check, and then c3 next. I can actually pre-move it because if bishop c3, bishop e3, c3 still works. Yeah, so here and now c2, and this pawn is crashing through. All right, so yeah, I don't think this queen c2 move. I think it's just a really bad move that white played in the opening. It looks like it just loses a pawn for basically nothing. I don't think there was ever any compensation, and now I never at any moment had to worry for my king's safety or anything like that. So it just felt like a pawn up. Okay, so let's play with Cosmos Dos. Good luck, Cosmos Dos. Alright, so here c4. Keep on playing my repertoire as long as I remember not to play the Catalan. Yes, so knight c3. c6, sure. So I'm playing against the Semi-Slav. I'm here with sort of playing against my own repertoire, so to speak, although I did not advocate bishop e7 for black. But the setup for white with bishop e2 and b3, I think, is sort of dangerous for black. Okay, so he takes this directly, but this now feels really wrong, because now we're going to get... he should at least wait for me to commit to b3, because now we're going to get like an open Moran where black is not able to play e5, so I'm going to get e5 first, and that's like really bad news for black. After b5, bishop b3, he really needs to be able to play e5 there. And his bishop with his bishop on d6, and he just can't. So here, I could have gotten a structure like this in the previous Moran game, but my bishop was already on b2 there, and once that's happened, like, the whole d4, e5 structure just doesn't make sense, as much sense with the bishop on e2. So here, let's go e5. And I think, like, black usually just gets mated pretty fast here. So takes, he's got to take with the c pawn, I think. And then bishop d3 comes, and, like, black can get... Well, he took with the e pawn, that's even worse. But here, black's going to get mated in, like, 5 more moves. His king just gets completely harassed by all of white's pieces, and black's pieces are unable to join the defense. So here, don't know. I mean, I probably could find something like super aggressive, but queen c2 seems to just fork a pawn, so I'm gonna be boring. But yeah, knight f8, so I'll take on c6, and that's a very clean pawn up. I guess he can play bishop g4. Yeah, so he does. I don't think I care that much. Yeah, he can take on f3 if he wants it. I just want to get my queen out of dodge. If he takes on f3 and I can set up with like f4 and bishop e3, it should just be horrible for black. Alright, so f4, man of my word. And get ready for f5 next, and black will just suffocate under these under this pawn mess. I guess he can try knight h4 here, with the point that he is threatening knight f3, and if queen e2, he has queen d7 just in time, but I'm not particularly intimidated. Let's start with king h1 as prophylaxis. And yeah, I think black's still in very real danger of just getting himself mated even now. So there, for example, like f5 just sort of feels like mate. So let's play it and find out. If queen d7, I can play e6 or rook g1. I mean, this just feels like it should be made very soon. Bishop g5, but f4, and I could take all the space, and yeah. This did not work well for black. So yeah, bishop, let's just develop calmly. I probably could be more aggressive somehow, but I'm happy to just bolster my center, and black is going to suffocate. So sure, so let's go rook g1, and then feels like black should get mated pretty soon here. So rook g4 actually is not that clear after knight takes f5. Let's just be calm and play f6. If queen h3, I have rook g3, so this is a bit slower than I would like in some play, but it's fine. His bishop is actually really bad. Yeah, so there my plot was rook g3 just kicks the queen away before she can cause me any trouble. Queen c8, you want an endgame? Wait, really? Can't I take this and go rook h3? That seems easy enough. Take in rook h3 as a piece. Okay. Yeah, so I think black should not be playing this Moran with d takes c4 and the bishop still on e7. Like, he's going to get killed by e4, e5, and this is sort of what happened. White just took all the space in the center, and I don't know. I probably didn't need to play this whole queen c6 back to c2. I'm sort of regretting it now, but it seems like I was always at least mostly in control. Alright, so good game. Let's see who else wants to play. Tom Buss, let's play with you. Oh, Netherlands. Alright, so what do we got, Tom Buss? Let's see if I can advertise the course anymore. Whoa, c5, aggressive. Benko Gambit. Oh no. Yeah, I actually was really happy with the work I did on the Benko. This was one of the spots I was most satisfied with on my own part. So here, after e4, castles they always play, I came up with this very interesting and almost completely unplayed move, bishop c4, which is really rare. But the point is that in a lot of lines, I'm just going to use this bishop on c4 as a glorified pawn, because the all-important diagonal is b6, is the whatever the heck that diagonal is, a6 f1, and if I can play b3 and bolster this bishop, I mean, here it doesn't matter because I'm going to get the diagonal instead. I'm going to go queen e2, and the diagonal belongs to me. So hang on, actually I got to be a little bit careful here, because queen e2, he has knight b4, a3, queen a6, and he gets there in time. So I have to, I'm going to start with a3, I think. Hang on, so queen e2, knight b4, a3, queen a6, and I think he's getting there, and he's okay. So if I start with a3, now after knight b4, I have bishop g5, and he will not get queen a6 in time. But yeah, so here I think if white gets the queen to e2 before black gets the queen to a6, white should just be better. Yeah, so rook fb8, let's go queen e2, and I don't think black has nearly enough for a pawn here. Although, I'm starting to think I may have misplayed this a bit. So knight d7, that's a good move. Let's go bishop g5 and harass this pawn a bit. Starting to think I misplayed this. Here my point is if rook b2, queen b2, bishop c3, I have queen b7. But it's actually really annoying for black to defend this pawn in a lot of these lines. Yeah, I don't know. I may have misplayed this against this particular structure. I think a3 was wrong. I should have probably started with bishop g5. But this still looks really good for white. King f8, yeah, that's pretty typical. So let's just overprotect this knight. And my queen side's really solid. At some point, the extra pawn should count. So there, let's go queen d2. And if knight b5, I'm ready with bishop h6. A good rule of thumb about the Benko Gambit is white is not trying to win the game on the queen side. He's trying to win the game on the king side and in the center. And the first step towards that is securing the queen side, making sure you don't lose anything. And that's good, all fine and good. But once you've secured the queen side like this, your plan is not to like push a4 or b4 or like try to make a queen. Your plan is to try to break through in the center and then leave black with a tough choice. Oh, do I want to get murdered in the center, or do I want to let pieces trade and end up in an endgame with the pawn down? So I think it's very important that we actually like here, for example, I think I can just break through with e5. That's seems like the way. Break through in the center, not on the king side, on the queen side. That's the best way to play against the Benko Gambit. Yeah. So knight e8, and now let's start mating him. H4. Just leave the queen side solid. It's insurance policy. It means that if black lets the position open up and starts trading everything, which is a pretty good way to try to save his king if he gets attacked, that he just ends up in a lost endgame. Yeah. So here I don't understand what he's doing. I'm just going to try to mate him. Just think that's the best way to play these positions. All right. So rook g4. Let's start with knight h2 and kick this rook a bit. Oh, that was just a blunder. It's okay. Queen g5 and... Whoa, that was a real blunder. Now he has rook f1 coming too. Guess I gotta play rook d3. Okay, that was really bad. So here he's probably fine now after like d takes e5. That I wasn't expecting. Queen b5. So he really wants an endgame, but this endgame should be pretty good for me. So takes, let's take this one. Let's go knight f3. And I just don't think he has nearly enough Benko counterplay in this endgame. My king is coming, and it's pretty solid. So there, sure. Guess I gotta go rook d2. c4, but let's go takes. And then knight d4, I think, should be good. Where's the rook going? d6. But now d5 is hanging, so I gotta transfer the knight to c3, but that's fine. Yeah, knight c3, and so this is sort of what happened. Like, I didn't touch the queen side, I just kept playing in the center, and then eventually I reached an endgame with a pawn up because black had to open the position, and now finally, well, he should have played c3. Now he's just dead, as long as I don't flag, but I should be okay here. e4. Yeah, I thought that was I mean, this knight h2 was just a blunder, but apart from that, I think it was a pretty clean way of playing against the Benko to just first solidify the queen side, then open the center and the king side, and then once pieces start trading over there, eventually the queen side goes. All right, so let's play with Tiger Tiger. With the D. All right, so we're gonna get a classical Sicilian. So far, really nobody has challenged me in the Rouser yet. What? Come on, guys. This is not how we play chess. Okay, so knight f3, we don't want to play g6. But here I can play e5. And actually, this position is a lot less boring than it looks, because if I'm allowed to develop my bishop to g7 and knight to e7, I actually think this can be really dangerous for white strategically, because his knight on f3 precludes him from playing f4, while black is going to be comfortably able to play for f5. So I actually think that these positions can actually get pretty uncomfortable for white pretty fast if he's not careful. Like, yeah, already here I just think black is, like, clearly better. Whoa. Okay, e4 already looks crushing. Alright, so let's do it. F6, sure, I don't think that helps him. I think with the queen is fine. Knight d4, and now my pieces are already super active. F5. Black is super, super active here. I'm ready for rook e8 next, and white's pieces are all stuck. The problem was if, like, sure, e takes f5 just, like, let black's pieces spring to life like this, but if he had not played e takes f5 and let me play f4, then I'm gonna, like, start a kingside attack, and that's not really fun either. Alright, so here, I have a feeling this should be crushing somehow. I'm just trying to look for the right way, but it's a little annoying. Like, if I go bishop d3, queen d3, rook e8, bishop e3, I think he's sort of okay. If I go queen f5, take, bishop e3, knight c2, that looks really good. I think queen f5 is the move here. But take, rook e1, queen c2 again. A lot of stuff is hanging. I think queen f5 is the move. I sort of am going to have to play it anyway at some point, because he's clearly going to play knight g4. So let's go with queen f5. I was also tempted to play bishop c6 and keep this bishop on the board, but then knight g4 was a bit annoying. So, I mean, I was calculating the consequences. Whoa, okay, so this guy wants a fight. Props for that. So I guess I should go queen e5, but then f4. I have to be a little bit careful here, actually. So if queen e6, rook e1, am I losing material there? Not quite, but it's scary. Maybe I have to play knight f3 check here. That'd be sad, but it's also probably pretty good for me. Let's go knight f3. I have a feeling queen e5 was working there, but f4 was scaring me. And if we just play an endgame like this instead, where white will struggle to develop the queen side because of the weakness of the b2 pawn, that's a-okay by me. So yeah, here white is really going to struggle to get his queen side developed. He should probably play bishop f4 here. So that instead, but like, I see. So bishop b2, and yeah. No, he's actually sort of survived this. I think white's a little bit worse, but it's not a huge deal now. So let's go h5, cripple the structure a little bit. It's still not that easy for white. Let's go bishop e5, keep everything nice and solid. b4, sure. I think that only makes weaknesses in his position. So king g7. b5, wow. Okay, so now I'm gonna go d5 and try to get a passed pawn. I think b5 was a really bad decision on his part, as now I will get a passer that should be very dangerous. Yeah, so take. a4, let's go c4, and then c3, and make trouble with this pawn. And rook d1, bishop e6, sure. 4, huh? Doesn't care about h3. I guess this point he's just going to get bishop d4. Actually, can I go rook f8? That seems like a good move. Yeah, let's go rook f8. I like that. Alright, so take this. If bishop d4, I can even play bishop back to e5, but I don't think I want to. I think I'd rather just go king h7 and anchor the bishop on d2. Yeah, so he takes that. Whoa, I have no time. Okay, I gotta pick up the pace a bit. Yeah, rook d6 and he's fine. Yeah, I'm too slow. Here. But no, check, and now I win a piece. Okay, so here he let me take a piece, but I'm gonna lose on time, so... If he flags me, it's fine. I don't really care. But I'm a piece up and absolutely winning. So there's that. Take here. Alright, let's take his stuff. At least now I won't lose because... Alright, yeah. So this obviously is just not interesting, but some people like to try to finish it off or whatever. Yeah, so I lost on time, or... Okay, I don't know. I don't particularly enjoy games like that, but I also don't get bent out of shape about them. It's just not important to me. All right, so we got time for one more game. I guess let's play with Kramnik Student. So let's see if you can cause me any trouble. Oh, Indian Kramnik Student. It's good. All right, Classical Sicilian, here we come. Yeah, so let's see if this guy can cause me any grief. Yeah, so bishop c4 is probably the second best move, but yeah, so knight db5, and let's say I go a6. I don't really remember this that well, but yeah, here actually queen a5, and doesn't this kind of cause a problem for white on e4? I thought that was supposed to be the case. So can I take e4 here? I think I can. As far as I can see, this is a pretty reasonable pawn to take. So let's take this, and now just make sure I don't blunder something, but I don't really see the... So queen f3, let's go knight e5. And I think I'm just a clean pawn up. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, white had to find a better way to make compensation in this, but it's possible there just isn't one. So let me take on c3, and now I have a second pawn. Alright, I guess it makes sense what he's doing, trying to be as active as humanly possible, but I don't believe it. So I'm just going to duck my queen back out of harm's way. If f4, knight c6 is fine, and black should just be winning. So knight c6, and this appears to be 2 pawns up. Yeah, so there, and now let's blunt the b3 bishop with d5, gain some space while we're at it. If f5, I'm probably just going to take it just to be safe, but... Alright, so let's blunt the bishop even further and not let him play bishop b6 on me. So sure, bishop f6, and... I don't know. It's going to be a little bit of a project to bring the point home here, but really should just be a matter of time. I mean, I have 2 pawns up and the bishop on. If his bishop were on d3, I mean, it's not like I'd be shaking in my boots, but I think that white would have like a fair amount of like just knight g5 and hope for the best. But here it looks like totally hopeless. So that said, I don't really want to let him play. Let's just go h6 and not allow knight g5. But now he can play g4. He had to try g4 there. I mean, it wasn't going to work, but he had to try. Let's go. I play too slow. Let's go knight a5 and take that bishop. That seems fine, or at least I was a little worried about him playing c3 and getting his bishop to c2 and then throwing g4, g5. I mean, he probably should still just throw g4 here. Like, he's not going to save this game under normal means. Just throw g4 and hope for the best. I'm really regretting h6, actually, as a result. That one? Is there a reason? I guess he wants knight g4. My pieces are actually a little passive. I don't love that. Alright, I'm gonna take twice and be super greedy and take a third pawn. I'm really disliking how I've played this, though. I think it's been pretty sketchy. And my point was here I'm ready with e5 next. So here it looks like he's about to kill me, but e5 is just in time, and now I get there. I think my technique this game was very spotty to say the least, but it seems like it was good enough. And yeah, here e5 should be lights out. So how best to finish this? I think let's just take this one, seems easy enough. Yeah, so there, and now let's go rook a7, overprotect f7. I don't think I have much to worry about. And now let's go rook d7 and harass this bishop, and I think I got this under control. Queen e5, and now I take the bishop too. Alright, so good game, Kramnik students. I think that opening didn't go wildly well. I can't remember if I'm able to get away with knight takes e4 there or not. Anyhow, good games, everybody. Still nobody's challenging me in the Rouser. I guess once I've published the course and my recommendations are available for people to poke holes in, it'll be a bit more challenging. But yeah, good games, everybody. This is fun. Look forward to next time.